Hello and welcome everyone, hope you're all doing well. In our today's tutorial, we are going to start talking about piping in Revit software. Just remember, before we start our course, you need to be familiar with Revit architecture or Revit general. However, if this is not the case, don't worry, I'm going to give you some general points regarding this software to make you a little bit more familiar with the whole thing before we start. This way you would have a general idea of the software before you start. However, again, I recommend you going through the Revit tutorial itself before getting to the topic of piping. First of all, why do we even need to be familiar with Revit before we get to the piping? Well, to answer this, let's open up a new template. I'm going to talk about these templates later on. Just let's see, why do we need Revit here? Now, I'm going to open up Files, then Options, then Use Interface. And then in here, I'm going to deactivate all the options that we have. All right. Now, if we go back to our viewport, we would see some tools, items, and tabs up here. The items that we have here are the general items of Revit. I mean, no matter what discipline you are working in, you would have all of these items. So, for example, your discipline might be architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical. No matter what discipline you would have all of these items. And in order to work on a project in Revit, the users should be completely familiar with all of them. So we can say that these are the prerequisite items that Revit users need to be familiar with, no matter what the discipline is. And if you remember, I mentioned Revit General and Revit Architectural a few seconds ago because they actually contain more detailed explanations of all of these items, and you can get completely familiar with them through those softwares. Now, for example, you might say, okay, I'm working in electrical field or even like mechanical field. Why do we even need to know about tools such as flooring tools, which, by the way, are one of the most essential and important tools and items in architectural field? Well, somehow you're right. I mean, they might be a little bit less important when it comes to other fields. However, they might still be needed when it comes to creating, for example, models in other disciplines. And also, it's important to understand that Revit is not an individual software. I mean, when it comes to working in Revit, you are in fact working as a team, or it's better to say as a part of a team. So, in fact, knowing about all the items and all the other disciplines in Revit would help you to have better communications, or we can say you can get or you can reach a common language with other co-workers and other teammates in your projects. And as a result, you can move on in your projects more easily and more professionally. So this is why before we start talking about piping, we are going to cover all the, you can say, important and general items that we have in Revit.